Clark Dean is the 2018 U.S. Rowing Under-19 Male Athlete of the Year, voted on by his peers from the 2018 Under-19 national team. Dean, who last year became the first U.S. junior men's single sculler in 50 years to win the event at the World Rowing Junior Championships, repeated as world champion in 2018. Prior to claiming that title, he set a junior world's best time, twice, once in his heat and again in his semifinal. Dean is a three-time medalist at the World Rowing Junior Championships, having also won bronze in the quadruple sculls in 2016. Earlier this year at the U.S. Rowing Youth National Championships, the Sarasota, Florida native won the men's 8 with Sarasota Crew, where he got his start rowing in 2011. Dean also has earned 8 U.S. Rowing Club National Championships medals and just started his freshman year at Harvard University. Congratulations, Clark Dean, the 2018 U.S. Rowing Under-19 Male Athlete of the Year.
So I remember the first time, or my first impression of the junior national team as an 8th grader and a freshman rowing with Sarasota was that back then I was in Pittsburgh before I became a part of it. And I remember I thought it was everyone goes to Pittsburgh, they only erg. I didn't think about rowing at all. I just thought it was going to be miserable workouts on the erg, 7 days a week. And then you get cut and then go home. So the first time I was invited to selection camp, I turned it down to row at Club Nationals with Sarasota. But then the next year when I went, I realized how great the system that we have in place is at the U19 level and how great all the people are who are involved with it. And through my 3 years on the team, I've seen the culture develop and get greater every year. And now almost 3 years later, I'm looking back, reminiscing, and I'm going to miss everyone who's been a part of it. And I think I've learned something from every coach who's been at the camp, whether they specifically coached my boat or not. And I think the culture that has developed over the last 3 years is it's so exactly the opposite of what I expected going in. I expected a hierarchy of the returners and the top guys and the fastest guys would kind of run everything, and everyone else would, and there'd be a pretty defined pecking order. And I think that was the furthest thing from the truth, especially this last year. Remember within the first week of getting there, when we had almost 70 kids from around the country, no one knew anyone else's name. And I remember within the first week, I messaged in the team group chat with over 70 athletes and then all the coaches, and I said that there was a mandatory meeting in the rec center at 8:30 on a Friday night, and no one asked any questions. I was expecting just a handful of guys to show up because it was clearly not an actual mandatory meeting, but none of the coaches said anything, and everyone showed up. And we broke off into groups, and all the returners taught all of the newcomers all of the games that we've played at camp for the last 2 years. So we spent about 2 hours teaching all the new kids how to play the various middle school aged games that we spent hours and hours playing every day. I think that night really showed the culture that has evolved at the U19 camp, and I just hope that it stays that way. I think it helps with the success greatly. And I think one of the other great examples of the culture is in this group chat, right, that everyone's in when they first get there. I'm going to say every single time someone gets cut and gets sent home, I cannot think of a single example where someone blamed the coaches or blamed the system because of how clear cut it was and how clear the whole selection process was. And every time when someone was sent home, I mean, it became like a joke. There'd be, basically they could copy and paste the message of the last guy before them. It was like, I didn't make it, but I know you guys are gonna do great, like good luck. I mean, I don't think a single person left camp on a bad note blaming the system. So I think it was a very good, clear-cut selection process, and I hope it stays that way. I'd like to thank, obviously, my parents and my grandparents for being my biggest supporters. And then beyond that, like I said, every coach on the junior national team, I think I've gained something from every coach, whether they coached me specifically or not. And then all the coaches at Sarasota. So, I mean, primarily Casey Galvanek, who coached me in the last few years at Sarasota and then was the head coach of the junior national team the last 2 years. And then Caitlin Crouch, who's coached me since I was a lightweight in 8th grade. So she's seen the highs and lows of my rowing. So thank you.